everyone, it's Lori Pinto from Lollipop Paper and Lollipop Paper and Ink. It's been a while. I'm finally feeling settled in my new home, in my new community, and it's been about 4 months, which is a little crazy considering I only moved from Connecticut to New Jersey. It shouldn't be such a big deal, but it was. I'm here, I'm happy, and we're ready for the next chapter in our life. So with all of this new beginnings and fresh starts, I thought I would do something to get us back to basics. So, because I was thinking that a lot of times we forget that we are all in different places and we come from different places and we are where we are. So sometimes we forget that we have to just try to remember actually some of the basics. So that's what I'm kind of going to try to do today. This will be my first video, and I'm hoping to do a short video once a week and just literally back to basics. So today we're going to talk about cardstock, trimming, measuring, layering, stuff like that. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something from it. And let me just turn the camera back down around and I will get right back to you. Okay, I think we're back and we're good. So, like I said, this is really back to basics, but let's just start from the beginning. We have two types of heaviness in our cardstock. The thick whisper white is what I use for bases, for my card bases. You could definitely use cardstock for one of your card bases. A lot of people do, and I do sometimes. It's just not as thick, and I like the white to kind of pop from my card base. So we have the thick and we have the regular. I don't think you can hear the difference, but there definitely is a difference. And the regular heaviness is what I use for my layering. But I always try to use the thick one for my card base. And it's the same thing. We have the very vanilla and in both the thick and the regular for layering. We also have watercolor paper and shimmery white. Now this is great for any kind of technique that you're using with water, because it is made to absorb the water and keep the integrity of the ink. If you try to use it on regular cardstock, if you're using your aqua marker or your to dip it into the ink pad, it's going to sort of disintegrate the paper. I mean, I've tried it. I just don't like the outcome. It doesn't ruin the project, but it sort of like gets very fuzzy, and I don't know if this is the right word, but it like pills up. So I don't recommend using that at all. That's why we have these, and these handle the water perfectly. And I always use these. And this has the watercolor paper has a really nice texture to it, where that adds something to your project also. And we also have vellum cardstock, which comes in the same size, 8.5 by 11. So the actual regular, let's just say the whisper white, but it's the same for the very vanilla. It is smoother. You can feel the difference between the Stampin' Up! Cardstock and, let's say, Michael's. And it's fine, but you will definitely get a crisper image here if you're using this. You can actually feel the difference between regular paper and this, and it's because it's made to accept the ink and to keep the image as crisp as possible. So I recommend using these whenever you can. So those are the different kinds of cardstock that we have. They all come in, take the thick one here. They all come in 8.5 by 11. And let's just do some trimming and measuring. And there's really just two measurements, two fractions that we have to remember. And that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now, those are the measurements. That's all we have to do. It's going to depend if you want a vertical orientation or a horizontal orientation, and that's going to depend on how you cut it. But either way, you're going to go with the 5.5 by 4 1/4. So I'll do this one. This will come out like with a horizontal orientation. So I'm going to just put it here on my trimmer. Make sure I have my 2 cutting blades. One is the scoring blade, one is the cutting blade. And I'm going to just trim it. So now I have to go back and I have to score it. Because it is so thick, it doesn't, it's not going to automatically make a nice crisp line for you. So just make sure you're using your scoring blade now, which I've made that mistake plenty of times. And that's how easy it is. So you have a nice crisp, clean line. I can't find my good bone folder, but this one's going to have to work for now. And I always do give it an extra little crease line because that just makes the card look so much more professional. So that's if I wanted to do it to make another horizontal. Okay, so you're going to get 2 horizontal card bases from 1 piece of cardstock. Now, if I wanted to, this is no, that's not it. This is the thick. So now if I want to have a vertical orientation, I would need to have it only 4 1/4 inches wide as opposed to 5.5. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to put it on the 4 1/4 to make my cut. Before I do that though, let me just give you a little tip. It just is it's a 1-step time saver. And what I'm going to do here, since I know I'm going to make 2 cards out of this, it's just taking away 1 step, and I'm going to go to my 5.5 mark and I'm going to score it first. So then when I cut it, I have 2 cards ready to make. I've just eliminated 1 small step. So, okay, so that's done. We know that it's scored, and now I want to make this the vertical orientation. So I'm going to go to 4 1/4. See that? And cut. Okay, and now you already have your crease line to, I went the wrong way, to use your bone folder, and you're good to go. It's just 1 little tiny step. So those are the 2 orientations, and that's just pretty much the 2 cards that you have to that you'll be making, the bases. So you just have to remember 4 1/4 this way is 4 1/4 this way, 5.5 and 5.5. It's just going to matter how you cut it. That's it. Easy, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about layering. So let's say I have this base, and let me just show you a few samples that I do as far as my layering and what I do with my measurements. Most of the time, the standard sort of is 1/4 inch all the way around. So if you know your card is, your card base is 4 1/4 by 5.5, and you want to have a 1/4 inch margin, you would cut your first layer at 4 by 5 1/4. So you're just, because you have to be proportionate, so you have to just make sure that you're taking off 1/4 inch on either side. So, and that's where you come up with the 1/4 inch margin. So that's what I did here. And then it looks like I did another one. I did another 1/4 inch to go, from my second layer. And that's fine. Sometimes it really depends on what your design is going to be. So like here, I did 1/4 inch. It's hard to see white on white, but I did do 1/4 inch, and that was just it. Now, lately, what I've been doing, I'm so in love with the DSP out of the new catalogs that what I do here is I kind of want to show off the DSP, but I want to make sure there's a little bit of white to pop out from my card base. So I've been doing just 1/8 of an inch margin. It's totally up to you. I usually do it when I just want to showcase something in particular. So in here, I had used the subtle impressions embossing folder, but I still wanted a little bit of that color to come out. So that's a total preference as far as what you want to do. Now, this is just one of the stitch dies, so this doesn't really matter. You know, like that is the size that I chose. I just probably base that on the sentiment. But if I wanted to make a layer, sort of like what I did here, but here I still did it small, smaller than what I normally would have done. So here you can see I have the 1/4 of an inch layer margin first, and then with my soft sea foam cardstock and then the DSP, I wanted to show a little bit of color, but I love this DSP, so I only gave this a 1/8 inch margin. So it's really not a big deal to do something like that. Let me just show you. So let's say we want to do let's see, whatever, we're gonna make the this piece here our focal image layer. Let's say we're just gonna make it 4 inches. That's my square. 4 inches by we'll do 4.5. Okay, so if I have this on, oh no, that's not gonna work. Let's do 3.5. I just want to be able to show you how to add to this. So this isn't in proportion, obviously, for this. So, but I want you to try to understand how I would make my margin 1/8 inch larger than this. So all I would do is go back here, and whatever measurement this is, so this is a 4. Can you see that? This is 4, and by 3.5. So what I would do is take my layering piece that I want to be just a little bit larger with the 1/8 inch margin, and I don't really have to remember fractions or you know what I'm looking at. As long as I see that this is where the 4 is, that's where the white paper, the Whisper White would go, and I'm just going to go up. I want to go 1/8 of an inch, which is just that little bit, that line that is between the 4 and the 4.25, and that's my 1/8. So I have 4 1/8, and what did I say this was? I think I said 3.5. So then I would just take this and go to my 3.5, and now go up 1/4. So I'm just going to go up, 1/8. I'm just going to go up right to there. And there you have just your small margin, your very narrow margin. You don't have to, you know, like you don't have to worry about the fractions or the math, actually. You just have to visualize it. And if you place the paper there first, you're good to go. Now here, what I should have done is made this looks like about 1/2 inch here, so I should have made this larger so that there's 1/2 inch here. But sometimes if I have a scrap and I still want to make a little bit of a layer behind it for a slight margin, I'll just do the paper like this. And then if I have a piece of DSP here, that just shows more of the DSP. So it's not a big deal. You can make it, you can just do a stitched square and do the same thing. Whatever measurement that is, just go up 1/8 of an inch. It just makes that layer pop a little bit. And as long as you're keeping everything proportionate, you're good to go. So like I said, this is not proportionate, but what I would do here is have my DSP, and then I would run a ribbon or thread or something underneath here and tie a little bow, and that would be good to go. So that's really it, I think. If you have any questions or any comments about the video, please just leave them below, and I will try to answer them. I will answer them. And I hope that you learned something or remembered something or just took something away from today's video. So I will see you next week. Come back and we're going to do another back to basics. And I think next week I'm going to do it on adhesives. So I hope you have a great week, and thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.